Good evening, friends. We're happy that the Krishnayar family is represented by Sri Swaminathan as well as Dr. Mrs. Radha Narayanan. At the same time, we are sorry that Mrs. Swaminathan, the eldest granddaughter of Mr. Krishnayar and the moving force behind this endowment, has not been able to join them due to some health reasons. This endowment lecture and the commemoration award is a joint venture of Calicut Heritage Forum, Mrs. and Mr. Swaminathan and Mr. Manmadan from North Carolina, USA, who is well known to history buffs as the one who blocks by the name Maddie. Dr. Radha Narayanan, she is another granddaughter of Krishnayar. She has kindly agreed to speak a few words about her grandfather. Speaking of the Krishnayar family, we regret to announce that the last surviving child of Krishnayar, Mr. Parameswaran Ayyar, passed away in Chennai last month. He was a chemical engineer who served mostly in Mumbai. We pray for the Shanti of his soul. Our President, Professor MGS, has not been able to be here in person due to ill health. He was very enthusiastic about the speaker and the topic which he has chosen to speak on. While signing the certificate to be given to this year's recipient of the award, he has asked us to convey his best wishes to the winner, Harishankar, for selecting an interesting topic and one about which MGS has rather strong views. It is my pleasant duty to introduce this evening's speaker, Dr. M.G. Sasibhooshan. He is no stranger to Calicut. In fact, he started his academic life here as a lecturer in the St. Joseph's College, Devgiri. Later on, he taught in many government colleges before being appointed as the director of Kerala's Literacy Mission. He is a prolific writer, orator, and a walking encyclopedia on mural arts and iconology of Kerala temples. Apart from interpreting temple murals and situating these within the periods in history these were created, his lasting contribution to Kerala's history is the introduction of the study of iconography into historical discourse. Just to give an idea about how important his contribution has been, while researching for the history of the Perumals of Kerala, Dr. MGS had noticed a curious mixture of Pallava and later Chalukya influence in the Vishnu images of only Malabar. Although it was not his subjects directly, he lamented that not enough study has been done on temple architecture. And I quote him, "No detailed account of early temple architecture in Kerala exists today. A hasty survey by Stella Kramrisk, confined to old Travancore, and some isolated accounts of individual temples are the only source of information other than direct personal observation." This he observed long ago. Dr. Sasibhooshan has attempted to address this gap in the cultural history of Kerala through his painstaking study of temple murals, architecture, and iconography. His most recent book, Aleghanangalile Kerala Charitram, is a landmark in the study of iconography in Kerala shrines. The popularity of this book can be judged by the fact that it was first published in November 2022, and by April 2023, within a period of 5 months, it had run into third edition. The topic he has chosen to speak on this evening is on the life and times of the Zamorins while they were in exile in Travancore. As we know, Hyder Ali had surrounded the Calicut palace in 1766, demanding that the Zamorin either pay him the ransom of 12 lakhs which he had promised to pay, or join the Mysore forces to fight against Travancore. The Zamorin was frustrated because that was not really a choice. He didn't have 12 lakhs. He didn't want to fight the Travancore forces also. He sent the Erapart and the women of the palace to Ponani and later on to Parur, and he set fire to the palace arsenal, killing himself in the process. This is how the Zamorin dynasty really ended in 1766. K.V. Krishna Ayyar, the chronicler of the Zamorins of Calicut, has not touched on this period. This period means beyond 1766 onwards. Although his book mentions 1803, that is because the Zamorins legally, the rule ended in 1803. But their life in Travancore is something which Professor Krishna Ayyar could not write about because he had no materials on that. His sources were mainly East India Company records, Dutch Company records, and palace records. None of these records spoke about those periods when they were in exile in Travancore. So this was a black hole in the Zamorins story, but no longer, because Dr. Sasibhooshan has done a lot of work on this area. So that's why we are terribly excited this evening that he is going to explain how the Zamorin household lived in Travancore. But although Professor Krishna Ayyar did not have enough material, his acute historical judgment comes out in an earlier publication, which was published 7 years before his Zamorins of Calicut. This earlier publication is called the Zamorin and the English, which was published in 1931, in which, touching on the fate of the dynasty after their flight from Calicut, Krishna Ayyar writes, and I quote, "Even as late as 1759, 7 years before the Mysorean invasion, the East India Company had to get the permission of the Zamorin to cover its factory with tiles. While in 1790, the company directed the Zamorin to place himself under the orders of the Commander-in-Chief of East India Company in Malabar." This is the sort of decline that happened between 1759, when the East India Company had to take the Zamorins' permission to tile their factory, and 1790. More humiliatingly, the company told the Zamorin in no uncertain terms in 1793 that he was not an independent ruler, but was expected to take orders from the Diwan Keshav Pillai of Travancore in all matters concerning collection of revenue from the Jagirs in Palghat. Diwan Keshav Pillai was a little jealous of the way Zamorin was being treated by Dharmaraja. Of course, he will give the details. So he complained to the company that this man is still behaving as if he is the ruler. So company had to remind Zamorin that you are no longer an independent ruler. You have to take orders from Keshav Pillai. But it was not all work and no play for the Zamorin family while they were in exile, because they were protected by the then ruling Kartika Tirunal Maharaja, Ramavarma, alias Dharmaraja. This is the story that we want to hear from Dr. Sasibhooshan this evening. Before I conclude, I have an important announcement to make. Calicut Heritage Forum is proud to announce that our Vice President, Dr. Oliver Noon, has published a remarkable book named The Forgotten Battles of Calicut. This is one more significant contribution of the genre called microhistory, of which K.V. Krishnaiyer was the pioneer. This book gives details of the naval battle of 1503 with the Portuguese and the land battle of 1790 against the Mysore army. He analyzes the significance of these two battles in the context of the broader geopolitical milieu. The book has already won critical acclaim from Dr. Shashi Tharoor MP and appreciation of Professor M.G.S. Narayanan. As Shashi Tharoor observes, Dr. Noon has used the two battles, and I quote, to explore the fascinating political, commercial, and cultural history of this rich and cosmopolitan part of the subcontinent. It is published by Gyan Publishers, New Delhi, and its listed price is rupees 540. However, we have negotiated with the publishers to make limited copies available to us at an extremely concessional price of rupees 400. Those interested may please obtain the book from the counter at the entrance of this hall. May I now request Dr. Radha Narayanan, the granddaughter of Professor K.V. Krishnaiyer, to speak a few words about her grandfather. Dr. Radha Narayanan was a professor of physics in Bangalore University, and she is into history also. This morning when she came, she has been visiting the places associated with Professor Krishnaiyer. So we heartily welcome her.
Distinguished diplomats, distinguished archaeologists, distinguished doctors, distinguished academicians on the dais, off the dais, and students, namaskaram. On behalf of the grandchildren of Professor K.V. Krishnaiyer, I express my sincere gratitude to Sri C.K. Ramachandran's, Sri K.K. Mohammed, Sri Dr. M.G. Sasibhooshan, Dr. Oliver Noor, and other dignitaries in the group for allowing Professor K.V.K.'s contributions to history to be accessible to all the research students all over India and all over the world. I also thank my parents, Professor Venkatraman and Jayalakshmi. My father was a Max professor, and my maternal grandparents, Professor K.V. Krishnaiyer, who needs no introduction in this dais, and Chellammal, and my paternal grandparents, Sri Ayyar Akhileshwarayar and Lakshmi Ammal. Sri Ayyar Akhileshwarar has co-authored a book in 1948 called Yukti Bhasha, which is a treatise on astronomy and geometry. And lastly, my husband, Mr. R. Narayanan, I thank all of these people for what I am today. On behalf of all the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I take this opportunity to express my gratitude for bringing out my grandfather's contributions to history. I also thank my cousin sister, Mrs. Parvati Swaminathan and Sri Swaminathan, for supporting this forum in all their endeavors. We have fond memories of our grandfather called Coimbatore Tata, who was residing in 20 Malavia Street. And it was our summer abode. And me and my brother A.V. Akhilesh had spent our younger days, school days, college days, and even working stages of our life. And in fact, for my first marriage proposal, Professor K.V. Krishna, my tata, escorted me to the studio to take a photograph, and he only matched the horoscopes. So I vividly remember that. Actually, he taught us life skills when we were with him, like punctuality, the value of money, and sincerity, all those things. So he would send us to buy postal stationery always because he was busy writing, reading, typing, and we used to wake up at the sound of the typewriter only daily. And he's an early riser, and he used to meditate a lot in the office room of 20 Malavia Street. At that time, we didn't know why his tata is sitting in this room for hours together, whereas there was so much commotion outside because of water problem, somewhere pumping water, and there were so many tenants around. Apart from history, he also knew Hatha Yoga, homeopathy, and holistic healing. And he taught me the power of positive affirmations in life. He lived a simple life and an intellectual thinking. He believed in that the time itself women empowerment. My mother, B.K. Jayalakshmi, was herself a graduate at that time, and she used to read more books and papers than ourselves when we were students. And my Periyamma, Mrs. Ponnamal, she used to discuss from cooking to politics and economics of the country and the state. So, in fact, we were all surprised how she could do all these things. And since our father was in the government service, he was a max professor, and he used to get transferred to all this Calicut, Vadagara, Talassery, all those places, Kasaragod. So Tata used to come to those places and take us to the place where important events of history has taken place and narrate those events in a very interesting manner. Although it is 41 years since he left us, we cherish his memories. Even my grandson, who is 12-year-old, he also got an opportunity in US, Texas, to speak about this great-great-grandfather in his school, about his achievements. We are blessed and proud to be the grandchildren of KVK and belonging to the KVK family. Now, history, if you talk of history and science walk together because history pervades all our life. We have family history, disease history, case history. In all walks of life, we are dealing with history only. So, and the various methods, scientific method or historical methods, the deductions, the hypothesis, everything leads us to, focuses on a betterment of human life. Once again, I thanks a lot for this great opportunity of sharing a few memories of our Tata. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Radhanarayan, for this interesting background of the KVK family. We are closely associated with the family members. I would now request our Vice President, Shri K.K. Mohammed, to say a few words.
വേദിയിലിരിക്കുന്ന അതിവിശിഷ്ട വ്യക്തികളെ, വിശിഷ്യ ശ്രീ സ്വാമി പ്രൊഫസർ രാധാനാരായൺ, ബോത്ത് ഫ്രം KVK ഫാമിലി, നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ എൻഡോമെൻറ്റ് ലെക്ചർ നൽകുന്ന പ്രൊഫസർ ശശിഭൂഷൺ ജി, അതേപോലെ KVK അവാർഡ് നേടിയ ശ്രീ ബി ഹരിപ്രസാദ്, നമ്മുടെ ഈ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ്റെ ജീവനാഡിയായ, ഐ കോൾ ഇറ്റ് ദ മൂവിങ് സ്പിരിറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ഗൈഡിങ് ബീം ഓഫ് ദ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ, ശ്രീ CK രാമചന്ദ്രൻ ജി, അതേപോലെ നമ്മുടെ സീനിയർ വൈസ് പ്രസിഡൻ്റായ ഡോക്ടർ ഒലിവർ നൂൺ. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ഡോക്ടർ മാത്രമല്ല, ഒരു ഓതറും ഒരു ഹിസ്റ്റോറിയനും കൂടിയാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് എഴുതിയ പുസ്തകം നമുക്കുള്ള മുമ്പിലുണ്ടെന്ന്. അത് ടെക്നോളജിക്കൽ ഹിസ്റ്ററിയെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള ഒരു വലിയ പുസ്തകം കൂടിയാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ കോഴിക്കോട്ടെ എൻ്റെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട വീട്ടുകാരെ, കൂട്ടുകാരെ, നമുക്കൊക്കെ അറിയാം പ്രൊഫസർ കൃഷ്ണ അയ്യർ. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ആരാധ്യനായ അധ്യാപകനായിരുന്നു. ഒപ്പം മികച്ച വാഗ്മി, പണ്ഡിത കേസരി എന്ന് പറയാം. ഇത്തരത്തിൽ 3 ഗുണങ്ങളും സമഞ്ജസമായി സമന്വയിച്ച ഒരു വ്യക്തിയായിരുന്നു. എവിടെ പോയാലും അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ തലയെടുപ്പ് കൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ നമുക്ക് പെട്ടെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്ന ഒരു വ്യക്തി. കേരളത്തെക്കുറിച്ച്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് സാമൂരിൻസിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള അദ്ദേഹം അവസാന വാക്കായിരുന്നു. ഒപ്പം തന്നെ കേരള ഹിസ്റ്ററിയുടെ മറ്റൊരു ഹിസ്റ്ററി 2 പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹം എഴുതി. ഇതിന് പുറമെ കേരളത്തിലെ മെഗാലിത്തിക് കൾച്ചറിനെ കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം പഠിക്കുകയും എഴുതുകയും ഉണ്ടായി. ഇതേപോലുള്ള ഒരു മഹാനായ വ്യക്തിയായിരുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ നമ്മുടെ CK രാമചന്ദ്രൻ സാർ തുടങ്ങിയ ഈ എൻഡോമെന്റ് ലെക്ചർ ഇന്ന് നിർവഹിക്കുന്നത് അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഒരു മഹാനായ വ്യക്തിയാണ്. ഞാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ പരിചയപ്പെടുന്നത് 1988-89 കാലങ്ങളിലാണ്. ഒരിക്കൽ അന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പാലക്കാട്ടായിരുന്നു. കുറച്ചു കാലം കോഴിക്കോട് വർക്ക് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. കോഴിക്കോട് ആദ്യം മാതൃഭൂമിയിലായിരുന്നു എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. അതിനുശേഷം പിന്നീട് നമ്മുടെ സെൻറ്റ് ജോസഫ് കോളേജിലും അദ്ദേഹം അധ്യാപകനായിരുന്നു. പിന്നീട് അദ്ദേഹം ഗവൺമെൻറ് സർവീസിൽ വന്നു. അന്ന് പാലക്കാട് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന അവസരത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം ചെയ്ത ചില റിസർച്ച് വർക്കുകളെക്കുറിച്ചും ചില പ്രത്യേക ചരിത്രാവശിഷ്ടങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും അന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം ആർക്കിയോളജിക്കൽ സർവേ ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യക്ക് എഴുതി. ആർക്കിയോളജിക്കൽ സർവേ ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ കേരള അന്ന് ഇല്ല, അത് മദ്രാസിൻ്റെ കീഴിലായിരുന്നു. ഞാനന്ന് മദ്രാസിലായിരുന്നു പോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടത്. ഞാൻ ഈ അവശിഷ്ടങ്ങൾ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി വന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ബസ് ലോഡ് ഓഫ് സ്റ്റുഡൻസിനെ കൂട്ടി ആ സ്ഥലത്ത് എന്നോടുകൂടി പോവുകയും അതിന് റിസർച്ച് മെത്തഡോളജി കുട്ടികളെ പഠിപ്പിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു. അതിൻ്റെ കുട്ടികളുടെ ടിക്കറ്റും ബാക്കിയുള്ള എല്ലാ ടിക്കറ്റും എല്ലാം അദ്ദേഹം തന്നെയാണ് വഹിച്ചത്. ഇന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള അധ്യാപകന്മാരുണ്ടാകുമോ എന്ന് ഞാൻ സംശയിക്കും. ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കാം, പക്ഷെ വളരെ വിരളമായിരിക്കും. അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു മഹാമനുഷ്യനാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്. 14 പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹം എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിൽ ഒരു പുസ്തകത്തിൻ്റെ ആമുഖം ഞാനാണ് എഴുതിയത്. ഇതിന് പുറമെ ലിറ്റററി മിഷൻ്റെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ അവാർഡും യുനെസ്കോ അവാർഡും കിട്ടി. കാരണം യുനെസ്കോ അവാർഡ് കിട്ടുക എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതൊരു വലിയ കാര്യമാണ്. പിന്നെ കേരളത്തിലെ മ്യൂറൽസിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പഠനം ആരും ചെയ്യാത്ത ഒരു പാന്താവാണത്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ അദ്ദേഹം നമ്മുടെ ശ്രീ പത്മനാഭസ്വാമി ശേഖരത്തിലെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ആദ്യം ഒരു മെമ്പറായിരുന്നു, പിന്നെ അതിൻ്റെ ചെയർമാനായി. നിലവറയിൽ തന്നെ എത്ര സാധനങ്ങളുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് അറിയാം. കുറേ കാലം അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ കയ്യിലായിരുന്നു എൻ്റെ താക്കോല് എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള, പക്ഷെ ഒന്നും നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അത്തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു വ്യക്തിയാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്. ഈ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രസംഗം കേൾക്കാൻ നാം എല്ലാവരും ഉത്സുകരായിരിക്കുക. എന്നെ പോലുള്ള ആളുകൾ, കാരണം കേരളത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് എനിക്ക് അധികമൊന്നും അറിയില്ല, ഞങ്ങളെപ്പോലുള്ള എല്ലാ ആളുകളും വളരെ ഉത്സുകരായിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇനിയും ആകാംക്ഷ നിങ്ങളെ എൻ്റെ പ്രസംഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ദീർഘിപ്പിക്കണമെന്ന് ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നില്ല. അതിന് ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ ചെറിയ പരിപാടിയിൽ എത്തിച്ചേർന്ന എല്ലാവരെയും, കോഴിക്കോട്ടുകാരാണുള്ള എല്ലാവരെയും നമ്മുടെ സ്വാഗത പ്രസംഗിന CK രാമചന്ദ്രൻ സാറോടൊപ്പം ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ എനിക്ക് അനൽപമായ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. താങ്ക് യു ഓൾ. ജയ് ഹിന്ദ്, ജയ് ഭാരത്.
We'll now give the KV Krishna Ayyar Scholarship Award to Sri Hari Shankar. Please come in. Sri Swaminathan will please. This is The award consists of a certificate and an amount of 25,000 rupees cash prize. Would you like to say? I shall now request Mr. Hari Shankar to briefly tell us what his thesis is about. Yeah, please.
So, first of all, I would like to thank the Calicut Heritage Forum members for this award. Secondly, I would like to thank my guide, Professor Selva Kumar, and then KCHR, and Naina John, who was actually forwarded me the message about this award. I would like to remember and thank them all in this opportunity. Thank you so much. So basically, my research is on Pattanam. The title is Scientific Investigation of Local Ceramics from Pattanam, Kerala. The art or skill of manufacturing, the functions, and the social values make potteries a vital asset for the archaeologist. Actually, so I'm dealing with ceramics. You have heard about ceramics, right? So I'm dealing with that actually. So at Pattanam also we have a lot of potteries, various kinds, from foreign ceramics to the local ones, etc. So these need to be studied systematically and scientifically to understand what society was at Pattanam. So this is a site located in Vadakekara village in North Paravur in Ernakulam district. So the site is also close to the Arabian Sea and falls within the Periyar river delta. And this gives an insight into the early historic cultures of Kerala, its economy and maritime activities. So another important geographical feature is that they have like a lot of canals, a lot of this Todu, etc., connecting to the Tattapalli river and connecting to the Arabian Sea. So like you could see a lot of these water transportation things interconnecting to each other. So the importance of site is that this is one of the habitation site excavated in Kerala so far. And another one is Vizhinjam. The excavator says that the Vizhinjam is dated to early Christian centuries, that is early historic period. But different scholars tell that this site belongs to the early medieval period. So there is this time difference. So the Pattanam was excavated from 2007 till 2015, and we have a lot of material evidences from the excavation. So a 4 meter of occupational deposit and layers. It's divided into 5 cultural layers according to the excavator actually. So the first is according to the excavator, he says that there is this Iron Age culture followed by the transition phase. This is from Iron Age to early historic period, and then you have the early historic period, and then you have the medieval period, and then to the modern period. So these are the 5 cultural layers he proposes, the excavator proposes. So the importance of this study is that the development of Kerala society during the early historic period could be traced. So this is a map of Pattanam. You could see it's close to the Arabian Sea. So like coming to the background, so this port of Musiris, I know because there is a lot of controversies and everything regarding Musiris. I'd be just giving a point on that. So this port of Musiris was mentioned in various literature, like the Periplus Mari Erythrae, that is and Akananuru, the Purananuru, and Ptolemy's geography. So in Ahananuru, that's actually a Sankam literature. It is mentioned that the Yavanas, that's the Romans, they came to Musiris, which is located on the mouth of the Periyar river, with gold and went back with pepper. So another statement is that in a Roman literature, they say that this drainage of gold from Rome to India. So initially, many scholars began to locate Musiris. They were trying to identify where Musiris was. Like many scholars were of opinion that it was near Kodungalur. So Anujanachan was the first one who started the excavations. He started in 1945, 1946 in Cheraman Parambu, but he couldn't find any early historic evidence. So he could only find some medieval potsherds, some structures like that. And later, K.V. Raman, Soundararajan, and N.G. Unithan, who are from ASI, excavated the Matilagam, Trikkulashekarapuram, and Tiruvanjikulam sites, that is in Kodungalur, in 1969-70. And they could not find any early historic materials. Instead, they could find a lot of medieval materials. So later, in 1997, Rajan Chedambattu, he explored the Kodungalur area and he could locate a lot of megalithic sites and some medieval sites, but still no traces of any early historic sites from Kerala. And then later in 2001, Gurukal and Whittaker, they explored and even looked at the literature and strongly supported that Kodungalur was Musiris. Actually, in 1998, a geologist, K.P. Shajan, he identified the potential of this site called Pattanam. Like he was exploring this region. And he could find that early historic objects like potsherds and bricks were noticed on an elevated place called Pattanam, which is about 2 kilometers northwest of Paravur and 8 kilometers southwest of Kodungalur. 3 glass beads, 1 agate bead, and shards of amphora were also recovered from the site. So amphora actually belongs to this early historic period. And later in 2004, trial excavations were conducted by the Center for Heritage Studies, Tripurithara, and they could also find pottery beads, iron fragments, shell fragments, early Chera copper coins, along with the evidence of settlements. They have the brick structures. So there is this controversy regarding the location of Musiris. Most scholars believed that it is in Kodungalur. But when I discussed this thing with Dr. Selvakumar, he was telling that this Pattanam could be a part of Musiris. It's not Musiris, but it could be a part of Musiris. So I also believe that because Musiris is a large area, and in the literature also this mentions this thing. The Musiris is a town, it's a big town, and Pattanam is just part of it. So at Pattanam we have a lot of material remains. I'll just quickly look at the things. So a total of 61 trenches were laid along with the trial trenches. So we have the features including architectural foundations. We have burned clay floor. We have a waterlogged wharf and a 6-meter long canoe. That's a boat, a small boat, and bollards, ring wells, toilet features, and storage jars. So the botanical remains include rice, black pepper, cardamom, frankincense, peat, bark, charcoal, leaves, root, seeds, woods, and pulses. The zoological remains are fish bones, shells, and cattle teeth. So we have a lot of foreign potteries. So we have the amphorae and terra siglita, which are from the Mediterranean region. That is the Roman trade, because of the Roman trade. And we have turquoise placed to it. That is the TGP, the torpedo jars, and South Arabian ovoid jars, which are from the West Asian region. That's from the Arabian region. And we have the Chinese seldon and blue on white ceramics, which are from China. And I'll be looking at the regional and local varieties. That is the local pottery, which we uses for cooking and all. So I'll be looking at that pottery basically. The regional pottery includes, we have the Indian rouletted ware, and we have the coarse red ware, black and red ware, and black ware. So this is the map of the excavated trenches. You could see that excavated trenches in yellow. So the excavator says that it's around 110 acres of a big mount, but only 61 trenches were laid. So these are the architectural remains. You could see the brick structures. These are the beads, various kinds of beads, the glass beads, the beryl, etc. There are a lot of images, but I could only use one. And this is a carnelian flakes actually. So the importance of this is that carnelian is only found in the Gujarat region. So you could think how it came there. The only reason is the only thing is that it's because of trade. And you have the Chera coins, early Chera coins. You could see the elephant, bow and arrow things. That's the first one. This image, this is a Terra Siglata, and the next one is TGP, turquoise glazed pottery. So this is the black and red ware bowl. This is a bowl actually, and you could see that amphora. So this is the rouletted ware. You could see the rouletting on the shirt actually, and those are the gold ornaments which are found from the excavation. So this is that 6-meter long canoe, that boat, which was found during the excavation in a waterlogged area. So if you ask me why I do this study, I could say because if you look at the archaeological sources, we have the microliths, we have the megalithics as archaeological sources, and we have Sangam literature, foreign literary works. These were the only sources to understand past cultures in the context of Kerala. So, early historic and early medieval period of Kerala society was not much known much until the Pattanam and Vizhinjam excavations. So, I'll be looking at pottery. Being a part of everyday use, it helps to understand the way of life, the economy, the food habits, the dynamics related to trade, manufacturing techniques, cultural identity, and artistic traditions. So this study focuses on coarse redware, that is basically the cooking wares, the blackware and the black and redware. So these will help to understand how the economy at Pattanam was. So basically, most studies were like looking at the foreign ceramics, for example, amphora, the rouletted ware, the terra siglata. Everybody was looking at those potteries, and everybody was ignoring this local pottery because they think this is local. Why do you need to study this local ceramics? So there were only very limited works. If you look at that, there are some preliminary catalogs on ceramics that is given in the excavation report. We have some reports on zoological and botanical remains. There are reports on beads, and there is a thin section analysis of ceramics. And there is three theses which are related to Pattanam. So one is the Iron Age and early historic cultures of Central Kerala, an investigation into settlement pattern by Dr. Dinesh Krishnan. The second one is Iron Age megalithic ceramics from Central Kerala by Jasira Majid. And the third one is early historic ceramics from the ancient port town of Pattanam, Kerala, an archaeological study by Sharat Chandra Babu. So these are the works that are directly related to the site of Pattanam. And we have other sites which I could use for comparative studies. Such a site is called Arikamedu. We have an Arikamedu site called Arikamedu, and we have Kodumanal, sites like that we have. So I can use the site comparison to understand much more on ceramics and the society. So basically my aims and objective are, the first one is obviously the typological analysis. So like I'll be looking at the different kinds of sherds like pottery which were used for cooking. So you know bowls is used for serving food and all, and the chatti, mean chatti is there. So like we can cook food, you can cook fishes like that. So I'll be looking at the typology, what various kinds of ceramics that were used for cooking, that for serving, and etc. So this will help to understand the cultural styles, like how it changed over time, how the shapes changed over time. So I could understand how the purpose and the function of these ceramics in the daily life of people. I could also identify the size and type of settlement they had. Like if for example, if you have 5 bowls in a house, you could just assume that there are 5 people or maybe 3 or 4 people. So like like I can assume, I can make just a statement that there would have been this much people, or the settlement was this big or this small. I could say like that. So another thing is the comparative analysis. As I told you, I'd be comparing the ceramics with other ceramics from sites like Arikamedu, Kodumanal, Alagamkulam, Kiradi. Like there are a lot of sites I could compare and study. And obviously, there is one thing that I could create is the database of ceramics on Pattanam. So like this will be a source book for someone else in future, so they can look at this pottery and compare with any other site. So another thing is that understanding the method of pottery production technology during different time periods. So like in early historic period, they might have used one method, maybe a different method in medieval period and modern period. So these will be compared. How what method they adopted. Like there are a lot of methods, like the wheel made, the hand made, the coil made, the turntable. A lot of methods. So I'll be looking at that. What method they adopted during various time periods. Another thing is the decorations on these potsherds. This will help actually understand the aesthetic sense of the potter and the community. What the community demanded, obviously the potter will try that. So I'll be looking at that also. And then is the provenance study, or tracing the clay source, where the potters collected the clay, maybe from nearby places, or they bought it from different places. I could understand this because with this provenance study. And then finally, I'll be looking at the evidence of activities at Pattanam. For example, if you could see the beads and their flakes, we could see, like we can say that, assume that this bead making factory or workshop might be there. So like that, I'll be looking at the activities that might have happened at Pattanam, and I'll connect it with the material remains. So I can see what the daily activities, what people did, what their industrial activities was. I could see that. And finally, the methods I follow, I already told you, I will be following the typological analysis, the comparative analysis, and the final one is scientific analysis. So there are 4-5 methods I'm adopting here. The first is XRF method. So like this is to understand the elemental composition, like what was used in this pottery other than clay. There are a lot of temper materials used to strengthen the clay. That it will also strengthen the pottery. So next method is XRD, to analyze the structure of the crystalline materials, and we have the SEM to understand the surface topography of these sherds, and then ICPMS, and finally FTIR to understand what people ate, because this is the residue analysis I'll be doing with FTIR. So I could see what people ate during the time. Was it the nammada kanyiyano, or it was a different food? So I could see that. So in as a discussion, I would say, more than a conclusion, I would discuss like what my thesis, people could get a better understanding of early historic Kerala society, or how was Pattanam during that period. This will help understand what Kerala, the development of Kerala society. The second is that the various cultural periods at Pattanam. So there is a problem, like when it started and when the site was abandoned. So I'll be looking at that also. And pottery making and labor employment. So how people made pottery and how the labor was employed, like how much labor intensive the production was. Such things I'll be looking at. And then another important factor is that the chronology of the site. There's a big problem recently, because the excavator is claiming that it is dated to the Iron Age period. So this is a problem I also try to look at. So I'll be trying to fix that chronology by understanding how it started and how site was abandoned based on pottery studies actually. So thank you. This is my research topic. Thank you.